Making great content isn't enough. You can have the slickest editing, the coolest graphics, and the most charismatic delivery, but it won't mean a thing if your ideas suck. It's like trying to win a race in a clunky old car. No matter how skilled you are behind the wheel, you're not gonna win. When I finally figured this out, I went from this to this and got monetized overnight. The trick? Just have better ideas. I know it sounds like one of those easier said than done things, but it's really not that hard. I'll show you how I figured it out, and then I'll break down why your ideas might be missing the mark, and more importantly, how to fix them so you can see some real growth. So why do your ideas suck? Why isn't great content good enough? And what can you do instead? But first, why is this so important? I don't know about you, but I want to transform my life. If you're watching this, you're probably like me and want to as well. I intend to do that by helping others get through the roadblocks that have held me up, and I'm doing that through content. I actually have quite a bit of experience making content online. I've been doing it on and off for 10 or even close to 15 years at this point, but in all that time, I never really understood why some of my stuff would do better than others. Sure, some of it was right place, right time. Others was because of how long ago I made that content. Some of it was probably just simply the title, but I never really had a clear grasp on why my successes were actually successful. And it pains me to say this, but it only really clicked recently. I mean, I knew the answer, but I didn't know it, if you know what I mean. I mean, it's obvious, right? You just make great content. Turns out that's actually step 2. Great content doesn't mean a thing if no one clicks on it. Step 1 is to have a great idea. Without the great idea, you can pour your soul into a project and it won't even matter. What's the point of putting all that time and effort into something that no one will care about and never learns exists? If your idea is a soggy sandwich, then all that effort goes to waste. So, the first question to answer, why do your ideas suck? To answer this, I want to use an example of one of my sucky ideas, the one that I shared at the top of this video. And this is a video that I made a year ago and I titled it, "The Single Fastest Way to Improve as a Tabletop Designer." This was back when I was making board game design advice content. I wonder if you can spot where I went wrong. I based the title after a proven title framework that has worked for other successful videos. It worked for them, it should have worked for me, right? I used TubeBuddy and vidIQ and I did some SEO research and the keywords came up with good scores. I got out of my comfort zone and added a bit more of my personality. I included a fun bit in there that required more editing to achieve than the rest of the entire video. I'm very proud of this video. It's very well produced. I love the info that I shared and I had fun making it, but after 13 months, it's still sitting at 2K views. Compared to my other board game videos, it's a great video, but it's based on something that no one cares about. Seriously, no one is searching for this topic. What was I thinking? Instead, let's look at this video. If we put it side by side with the first, it becomes kind of obvious. Think about the burning desires that your audience has. In my case, when I was doing board game videos, my viewers simply didn't care about learning faster. It's not something people think about, or ask themselves, or need an answer to. No one cared about this video because, I mean, just read the title. Who cares? But if you're designing a card game, you're probably curious as to why the cards are laid out the way they are and what the rules to follow might be if you want to make some of your own. If that's something you care about, then this video is perfect for you. And again, it's reflected by the views. This video blew up because the idea is significantly better. So even though the keyword scores were actually slightly worse and the editing wasn't any more special, it did literally 80 times better. So, why do your ideas suck? Because no one cares. Now, when I say your ideas suck, you might be hearing, "Listen to me, I've got it all figured out, I'm an expert." Let's just put that to rest real quick. As you saw from my perfect example of my own content, I am not an expert. There are probably many other people who are more qualified to tell you how to do things, and that's not me. But I think I know how we can fix this problem, to have actually good ideas. In a moment, we're gonna run a quick experiment, and by the end of it, I expect we'll have learned how to think of actually good ideas. That's because while I'm not an expert, the one advantage I do have is this. I have watched YouTube and doomscrolled Reddit daily my entire adult life. I live on the internet, and as a result, I think I've gotten pretty good at spotting bad ideas. I've been studying this for years now. I have seen what works and what doesn't many, many times, and it's helped me realize one thing, and it is this. What works for others won't work for you. Yet. Let me unpack that. I think the best way to grow in most things is to model what works. This is how you learn to walk or ride a bike, apply for jobs, get diamond in League of Legends. But what I find is the case with most new creators is this. Imagine you're trying to bake your first cake and you decide you want to follow a recipe from a world-class pastry chef. Not a great plan. You'll quickly find yourself overwhelmed by the fancy techniques and the rare ingredients that you've never heard of, and suddenly what seemed like a straightforward process of following a recipe is actually a frustrating mess. The same goes for content creation. When you model what works for others, it's easy to forget that your circumstances are wildly different. You need to take into account how it applies to your situation. The clearest example I can give for this is this video of mine. Now that I know this, I see it all the time. There is an absolute crap ton of videos like this, and they work because the creator is already known and they have people interested in what they're doing and what they have to say. My video is practically the same, but it has less than 500 views in 15 months because no one knows who I am. Who cares what I have to say? This is what I mean by what works for others won't work for you. At least not right away. My video is lacking one major key ingredient, and without it, the cake falls flat. There is no social proof. The reason this style of video didn't work for me and won't work for other small creators is because it doesn't have views. It's a catch-22. It needs enough views to signal to everyone that it's worth watching in the first place. This won't work for you, not until enough people care about what you have to say. So what can you do instead? We're going to run an experiment, and I think the best way to truly learn how to have good ideas is to follow along with this. One thing I know, every ounce of effort that you put into trying to grow online is multiplied by how good your idea is. What I mean is, you can have the best video in the world with the best title and thumbnail, and it will be all for nothing if your idea sucks. Nobody wants polished turds. So I'm going to suggest that you should pay attention and maybe even take some notes. Maybe that's a little too far. You do you. I think it's important to learn this and learn it well. Everything you make is based on the ideas you have. Having great ideas is your foundation. Everything you do is built on top of great ideas, so it's important to understand this. So, what ideas are actually great? How can you tell? Let's run this experiment and figure it out. I bet that if I refresh my YouTube page a few times, I can find several videos from newer creators that have under 500 views and probably don't deserve any more. Now that's a pretty awful thing to say, and I don't say it to be toxic or to pick on anyone specifically. Instead, it's a bit of tough love from an outsider served their content by the almighty algorithm. There are hundreds of thousands of people like me and you who get served this brand new content. I'm going to simply say out loud the things that everyone is thinking. I'm going to be a bit of a jerk and call out some of my peers so that we can use this as a learning experience to train our brains to have better ideas. And to make up for being a jerk, we'll take the lessons learned and I will show you and these creators the simple and repeatable way to turn these ideas into something better. Hopefully that can make up for me picking on them. So here we are on my homepage, and I see you already typing in the comments, don't judge my suggested content. For those of you who don't know, YouTube has been trying to help the new or smaller creators get discovered. And one of the primary ways that they do this is by letting the almighty algorithm throw you to the wolves and see if you survive. It watches you get mauled and torn to shreds and then tries to see how well you fared. Then it picks you back up and throws you to another pack. And it does this thousands of times until it finally finds a place that it thinks you might not get mauled, or maybe you'll even fit in. But there are a few things that you can do to help not get mauled. I bet I could find some good examples to illustrate this in real time. Let's refresh my homepage a few times and find, 4 or 5 example videos, and I'll explain why the ideas suck. And I left it on this page because I've already found a couple by refreshing earlier. This first one, tempting mistakes in game development, I think is a prime example. And then also this, choose a class for early access for PoE2, which you're going to see a lot of PoE2 on my feed because I am very excited for that, and it comes out in less than 2 weeks. So let's go ahead and refresh for a little bit, and I'm going to see if I can't find a few more examples for us to talk about, and then we'll come back. All right, so here are our example ideas, and while YouTube thumbnails and titles aren't the ideas specifically, they are the intended representation of the idea contained in the content. Each of these has its own problems. Let's see if we can give some tough love and point some of it out. Our first example is by Gurky the Dev, and right off the bat, I have to say the thumbnail looks pretty good. It's just not a fit for this idea. I have no idea what it's trying to tell me. Tempting mistakes in game development? Is this stuff I should avoid? Is it common traps or pitfalls? Tempting isn't a very strong word in this case. The idea of this video is not clear at all. I have no idea what to expect, and therefore, no attention to spare it. Off the top of my head, something like 5 mistakes every new game developer makes, or to better fit with a thumbnail, you could have avoid these newbie mistakes, or you might as well burn your project. I don't know. Something like those could be infinitely better. Our second example is from Gyrotex Gaming, and I know I'm not meant to talk about anything but the idea, but man, this thumbnail is just too busy. You'll notice a trend moving forward that these thumbnails are just below average. As far as the idea goes, it's actually pretty clear, but they fall into that social proof trap. My picks, it says. Okay, but I don't know who you are. Why would I care what you have to say? If this had maybe 20,000 views, it might mean something then. So maybe instead something like the most broken classes in early access, or something like that. Example 3, Castle Strong Gaming thinks that the Infernalists will be top tier in Path of Exile 2. And again, why should I care? This isn't controversial, it's not something that sparks curiosity, there's no reason for me to hear this person's opinion on the matter. They already told me what they think in the title. Why would I need to click on this? Instead, something as simple as, this will be the top tier class in Path of Exile 2, at least means that the content within the video is worth watching to learn which one you're talking about. And then it's their job to keep the viewer hooked and, watch it for more than just that answer, I guess. Example 4, the Pocket Dimension wants to teach us how to play Daggerheart. Once again, it has weak packaging like the others, but the idea is very clear. This video length seems to kind of back up the claim, but this style of video is seemingly more about search. And maybe it could gain traction in search over the coming years, but given that the title suggests that it's about the specific rules in the beta, those rules are probably going to change soon, and therefore the video is probably doomed. And again, they don't have any social proof for me to care. If I wanted to learn how to play, I would click on any other video with more views. Chances are it would just be better content. Maybe retooling this to be more about the little details that are easily missed when learning the game would work better. And our last example is from Random Acts of Gaming, and this is also a search optimized video. I can only imagine this thing's existence is so that when someone goes into Google and types in the Justice and Redemption quest for Ashes, this is the first thing that pops up. Because otherwise, what else? Why? What? Anyone who sees this poop-colored thumbnail in their feed has no reason to click on it. What are the chances that someone happens to be browsing YouTube that also happens to be stuck on this quest? Literally no one will care about this. Maybe if you owned the wiki and you were trying to fill out all the pages with a video guide, but still, who cares? I'm going to make some random assumptions to justify making content about this random quest line. Chances are there's no reason to make content about it, but whatever. Let's just assume that this is a major hang-up for most players, and that Random Acts of Gaming has an insight on how to do things better than everyone else. Even then, a title like How to Get Past the Quest That Everyone Fails, or You'll Regret Skipping This Quest. Something to just make it interesting to Ashes players. So that was a lot of poo-pooing on content from new creators. Again, it's not about trying to be mean so much as trying to give clear examples, and these just happen to show up today while filming. These are the key takeaways that we learned from these ideas. Clearly show and explain what your content is about. Be careful of leaning on social proof that you don't have. Build curiosity and give the viewer a reason to watch your content. And search optimized content could be okay as part of a greater strategy so long as it's evergreen. So now you can more easily spot bad ideas. You'll have better ideas. It'll take practice. It's a skill that you can improve and develop over time. But if you don't want to wait, you could just also cheat. Not sure if your idea is good or bad? Well, that's where idea validation comes in. This is a subject for a video all on its own, and since you're this far into the video, I bet you can see why it's so important. Idea validation is the trick to making sure that your ideas are not just good, but great. To have actually good ideas. I made a simple checklist that you can use. You can take anything that sounds interesting to you and run it through it and see if it has potential. This way you can validate if it's an actually good idea or not. It's super easy. You can use this until you develop the skill to do this on your own. There is a link in the doobly-doo for it, and while you're down there, go ahead and tell the algorithm that you like this type of content by hitting the like button for me. Thanks. Anyway, hopefully I have explained well enough why it's important to consider why anyone might care about the content you make and how to ensure that the stuff you make is worth watching. That way you can grow a following like all the other best creators and make money doing it. If you're a content creator or looking to get started making stuff online, I send out a weekly newsletter that is perfect for you. Every week you can get helpful tips and tricks like this that demystify the content creation process, as well as inspiration to motivate you to get started or to keep going. It is the top link in the doobly-doo. But maybe you're thinking you don't even know where to start. How can you begin to think about great ideas when you don't even know what kind of niche you want to be in? I got you covered. I struggled with this for a long time myself, and I share how I finally managed to figure it out and how you can easily do it too. There is a trick to finding your niche, and I can show you how to do it for yourself in under 10 minutes. All you have to do is watch this.